2 orbits later, the first player folds and we look down at 2 black aces in the +1 position. I raise it up to $15 and just the big blind calls, so we're heads up to the flop. It comes down jack high with a pair of 5s on the board. Our opponent checks and I make it $20 with our overpair. He doesn't take long to call and the turn brings an offsuit 10. He checks again and I bet a little bit bigger, making it $30 this time. I think I should be betting a little bit more here. The pot's $71, $30 is less than half pot. I think it should be closer to a $40 to $45 bet at least. He calls once again and the river brings the 10 of clubs, double pairing the board. He checks a third time and I consider checking back, but the way the hand played out, I'm thinking he might have a jack here that we can get some thin value from. I make it $50 and he pretty much snap calls. I show our hand and our opponent flips up 3 deuce of clubs for the rivered flush. That's definitely not the hand I was expecting to see here, but it was enough to crack our aces, unfortunately. Another 30 minutes pass before the next interesting hand. We've got 2 black aces again, and we're even in the same position as before. I raise it up to $15, and it folds to the small blind who 3-bets to $55. I don't really want to get tricky and just call here since we've got an aggressive image, and I'd rather just get the chips in now if our opponent's willing to. With that, I 4-bet to $200, which is probably a little bit on the bigger side. After about 30 seconds, our opponent folds and we take it down. 3 hands later, we look down at pocket kings in the +2 position. There's a $6 straddle, it folds to us, and I make it $21. We end up getting 3 callers, and the 4 of us head to the flop, which comes down at 6-8-5 with 2 hearts. So we've got an overpair, but it's a pretty coordinated low board that's more likely to hit our opponent's ranges than ours. The big blind and straddle both check, and I c-bet for $50. Just the player behind us calls, so we're heads up to the turn, which brings the 3 of hearts, completing the flush. Our opponent's pretty short at this point, and I don't see us getting away here regardless of what he's holding. With that in mind, I push all in for $140 effective, and he quickly calls.
I think that's it, right?
He's all in, okay, cool.
I don't have a heart. That's it.
Our opponent shows ace-10 of hearts for the turned flush. Thankfully, he didn't have a bigger stack, but it hurts to keep losing when we've got a premium pair. 3 hands later, we pick up pocket aces for the 3rd time this session. There's a $6 straddle, the middle position raises to $25, and 2 players call behind. We're out of position in the big blind, and I want to raise it up big here to charge anyone who wants to come along, so I make it $130. The original raiser and both callers end up calling our big 3-bet, which is not what we wanted to see with aces, so we're Texas heads up, as they say, to the flop. The 4 of us see a relatively dry flop of King 4-10 Rainbow. I'm happy to c-bet here, and so I make it $300 for us to act. The original raiser folds, the next player folds, and the 3rd player folds. We take down a decent sized pot without too much of a sweat.
So as I'm still getting situated, I haven't even literally taken my seat at the table yet, and the dealer deals me pocket kings. Someone to my right raises to 12, so immediately I want to bump it up and create some action, act like I'm splashing around, but really, we got the goods. I bump it up to $40. The small blind cold calls and the original raiser calls, so we go 3 ways to a flop. The flop is ace-6-3 with 2 clubs. Small blind checks, original raiser checks, and I decide to check back on this board, and we head to a turn card, which is an offsuit deuce. Small blind leads for $60, original raiser folds, and I'm not going to fold to just 1 bet here, so I put in the call, and we head to a river, which is an offsuit 9. He checks, and I'm extremely happy to check and take my showdown value here, but unfortunately, he flips over ace-jack offsuit, and not a good start to this session. We are now down $100 at our meetup game. This hand, there's a raise in early position to $8. I'm next to act and look down at 2 red aces. I bump it up to $25. My good friend Jason, to my left, he puts in the call, the big blind calls, and the original raiser folds, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. The flop comes queen, jack, 4, all clubs. Terrible flop for my hand. Big blind checks, I'm gonna check this one, and Jason puts out a bet of $40. The big blind folds, and now it's back on me. I'm not gonna fold just yet, as there is a chance we can get to showdown, and we do have an overpair to the board, so I call, and the turn is the worst card. It's the 5 of clubs. I check it over to him, and I'm really happy to see him check as well, so we head to a river, which is the king of spades. Now he has a lot of hands that just upgraded to 2 pair, or he has some kind of middling flush. I check, and I'm super happy to see him check behind, because turns out he had a lot of showdown value, as he had king jack offsuit, no club for 2 pair. And I flip over my aces because I qualify for the aces crack promotion, where if you get your aces cracked, you get a $100 rebate. So we invested $65 on the hand and got back $100 500, so we still did make a slight profit even though our aces got cracked.
Well, we did have to wait a little while. Our time finally comes. I get the dream spot. I look down at pocket aces under the gun 1, and this guy is still going off. So I raised to 5,500. He might not have noticed I haven't been opening since he sat down, but he 3-bets to 16K. He's only got about 105 total in his stack, which is 40 bigs. But I don't want to just rip it in with aces. I don't want to just call and have him, you know, see a flop that he doesn't like. So I just tiny 4-bet to 40K, which I could even go smaller maybe just as an exploit, but I chose 40K, 2.5 times his bet, and he just snap goes all in, and it was just music to my ears. I obviously put in the call immediately, and he has pocket deuces. I hold post flop, and I have no idea how I just ran this good, especially the guy that's just giving it away. And unfortunately for the rest of the table, we're the one to take the last of his chips.
Running pretty good on day number 2 so far, and it gets better with pocket kings. We've already got 10s, queens, and now kings within the first level of the first day of day number 2. Folds to me in the small blind. I raise here to about 2.5 or 3x the big blind. The big blind completes with a call. We see a queen 6 deuce board, super dry. I decide to bet small here, 3,500, and he calls. Turn 9, I think it's a great spot here to size up. I don't think he's ever going to be folding a pair, blind versus blind. I make it 15,000 after not thinking for too long. My opponent in the big blind makes the call. The river's another queen, and in this spot, I'm not sure if I should be betting going for value or not. I feel like if I bet here and he raises, it's going to be in a really nasty spot, so I decide to check over to him. He instantly checks back, and pocket kings are good. Every single hand on day number 2 is just so intense, and that is because the stakes are so high. No rebuying means that every decision you make means something. If you make the wrong decision, it could have cost you your entire tournament life. So far today, things have been going very well. I'm in the small blind. There's an early position raised to 2.5x, and I look down at pocket aces. The player who raised from early position has a ton of chips. I would say over 200 big blinds, so with 17 big blinds left, I think the best play here is to rip it all in, which is what I do. He gets a count. He realizes that it's only around 17 bigs, so he makes the call. I show pocket aces and he shows pocket 10s. We're in a great spot to double up, but our tournament life is on the line. We gotta hold if we want to stay in. Aces hold for a massive double up right after the money bubble. This was so needed here. We needed this double up down to 17 big blinds. Now we are comfortably sitting at around 37
I pick
big
up
blinds.
pocket kings with about 26k in stack. Okay, this is a good one when the low jack opens up the action to 2,500 here. With only 20 big blinds with pocket kings in position, I'm happy to just make the call. The big blind calls as well, so just the 3 of us to a flop of 8-7-4 rainbow. Pretty connected flop, and action checks to me. Not really sure that any of these players actually connected with this board, but still have to bet for value in case somehow someone has anything here. I bet out 3,500, and to my surprise, both players actually call, so surprised by that outcome, but at least we got some action. We're hoping to see a brick turn, which comes the 3 of spades. Okay, checks to me once again, and I have about 20,000 behind in my stack, and I think I can go either way with an all-in or another small bet. I decided on the latter option where I can bet small, then continue and just go all in pretty easily on whatever river comes. So I decide on 8,500, and sadly, with this sizing, it's not going to get any action. Both players fold, but it's one of the first hands we've ever won today in this tournament. I have no complaints about this outcome. Picking up aces under the gun, what a sight to see. Maybe bullet number 4 is the real lucky one. I open things up to 3,500 and I get the button and big blind to make the call. So once again, 3 ways to a flop of 9-5-4, 2 spades. Here with not a single spade in hand and the best pair possible, action checks to me and I decide to bet out 3,500 once again. It's about a 1/3 sized bet. And the button makes the call, big blind folds, so we're just going to a turn here, which comes a spade. Ew. Not really the card I'm looking to see, as the board is a lot more straightening, and obviously there's a flush out there. Not holding a spade as well, I decided to slow down and do some pot control. I check it over to him, and he thinks the pot control idea is just silly and decides to bet out 7,500. Okay, for this sizing, I'm not going anywhere. Didn't check aces to fold them, that's for damn sure. I stick in 7,500 myself to match his bet. We're going to a river heads up now, hoping to just not see a spade. River comes a brick. It doesn't change the board whatsoever, and I'm going to check inflow. I'm okay with him checking back, to be quite honest, with a board that we're not too proud of or not too happy with. And ultimately, he ends up going all in. Oh, man. He covers me, and I have about 22,000 in stack. It has been a really frustrating day. I don't think that this player is going to be bluffing considering the line that he took. And is there a way that I can ever win here with just one pair? Seems pretty optimistic at this point, but it's aces and we're early in the tournament, so we've got to put our chip stack at risk to hopefully win a big pot here. Come on, let's hold. I make the call and he shows us pocket nines. Top set just for him, and that's going to be good enough to scoop. We say goodbye and RIP to the $6,500 that we put into this tournament. And I guess we're going to be moving on to other things today.